Hello, and welcome to my What the F podcast. I'm Tina, your IVF mindset and fertility coach and mum of a miracle boy after 4 years of IVF treatment. If you're in the IVF trenches or going through the loneliness, soul destroying, and tears of infertility, then you're in the right place. You are not alone in this. I'm here to help you be kinder to yourself, even in the toughest moments when you feel so frustrated and overwhelmed and feel like giving up. Together, we will help you to find happiness and peace during one of the toughest chapters of your life. And if there is just one thing that you take away from this podcast and work on, then my heart is already full. Hey, beautiful souls, and welcome back to What the F, from infertility exhaustion to peace. I'm Tina, and today's episode is really for anyone who feels like they are the ones that are really carrying the emotional weight of infertility alone, especially when your husband doesn't fully get what you're going through. And honestly, it's something I hear all the time from women that I work with. I hear them say, he just doesn't get it. He says it will happen when it happens and shrugs it off, or is way too casual about it all. But I get it. You are the one going through the physical and the emotional waves, roller coaster. It's hard not to feel like your husband should be on the same level emotionally, right? And look, this isn't about blaming our husbands or going off on a rant or pointing fingers. It's nothing like that, right? It's just acknowledging that this is what a lot of women go through and experience. And it's about talking about something that I hear from so many of them, so many of the women that I work with. The infertility journey, IUI, IVF treatment is a shared journey, but it doesn't always feel like that. So many women feel pretty shit, isolated and disconnected from their husbands, and that can lead to feelings of frustration, loneliness, and resentment. And I know, because I definitely felt the frustration and the resentment part of it. You know, watching my husband get on with his everyday life, going to the gym, going to the boxing gym, going for runs, being able to like drink whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and eat pretty much whatever he wanted. It was something that I really wanted to do, not the drinking bit, but, you know, going to the gym, going for runs, just, you know, being active. And so, yeah, I'd be lying if I said that didn't bug the hell out of me. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about that disconnect, what might be going on in his mind, and most importantly, like how to work on it instead of, you know, just brushing it under the carpet or leaving the big fat elephant in the room like we tend to do sometimes and just brush it off because we don't want to be dealing with it or confront it. And, you know, you do want to work on it because you don't want to keep feeling like you're carrying the entire weight of the journey alone, getting more and more frustrated, resentful, and generally pissed off. So when you're going through fertility treatment, especially after months or years and years of trying, like in our case, it was 4 years, right? There's this huge emotional strain that dismisses the emotional toll of the journey. And it's not that he doesn't care or that he doesn't want to support you or be there for you or that he's being dismissive and casual about it all. It's just that he's likely not experiencing the same emotions in the same way, or is, but in different ways. His role, while it's important, is different from yours. So what could be going on in his mind? So when they're not physically going through it, right? So they're not physically going through it. Men don't have to go through the physical aspects of fertility treatments, although I do say that, but although my husband was the first one to start taking testosterone injections, and he started taking them a few months before me, actually. So that was the first, and he was taking them to improve his sperm quality and sperm numbers and morphology and all of it, really, because he had male infertility. So therefore, because they're not going through the injections and pumping their bodies with all the hormones, they don't always feel the weight of what you're going through and what you're putting through in your body and how that's impacting you. And they may also be struggling with their own feelings, but often in ways that aren't visible because we can't see it or easily understood. They also don't know how to process emotions. So I don't agree with it at all, but having a son now, like, I really want him to be able to express how he's feeling. But men in the past are taught to hide their emotions, and I guess in this society, in the world we live in today, I think that's still the case. There is a lot of awareness out there, so I think it is changing, but there is still a lot of men that hide their emotions and focus on like finding solutions versus like expressing vulnerability or how they truly feel. Honestly, like, this couldn't be more true than like men that live in Southeast Asia. So I live in Singapore, and also from the South Asian community. And that's from generational expectations and pressures that are put on them. So they may not understand how deeply this process affects you or even themselves because they're just not aware. And also, they sometimes feel like they have to be the strong one to help you through it. Or they may have other pressures that they're focusing on, like the finances. Gosh, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we spent on treatment will honestly make you fall off your chair. And also, they may feel completely helpless. So watching their wives go through the pain of infertility can make them feel helpless, like there's nothing they can do to fix it, right? They don't know how to fix it. Generally, they're taught that they have to be the ones that fix things and come up with the solutions. And when they can't, it feels powerless. Sometimes they default to don't worry, it's all going to be okay. It'll happen. We'll get there. Because sometimes that feels like the only thing they can say because they truly don't know what else to say. I don't often coach husbands of the wives that are going through a fertility journey, but there was a client of mine a few months back now who was going through a lot. And she was honestly at breaking point when she found me and started working with me. And she was at breaking point with her husband because she felt so frustrated that he was being so candid about the whole thing, so casual about it. And she felt like she was really suffering mentally, emotionally, and physically. Honestly, the first session was just her offloading all of these emotions that she was having towards him. And I could honestly feel and see the pain, not only in her eyes, in her words, but, the pain that she was carrying in her body. And so she asked me if I would be open to coaching her husband, which I agreed to. I said, as long as he is willing and he's happy. So I spoke to him and we talked through a lot, right? He has never been coached before, found the whole experience completely new, a little bit daunting. I mean, he was a Chinese man, born in Malaysia, brought up here in Singapore. So there are so many cultural aspects to how he felt his role should be through all of this, like the strong one, the provider, the one that takes care of everything. And he was not only trying to be there for his wife, his son, but also his sick and fragile elderly parents and the finances. So he was carrying a lot. And by the end of the session, he said he felt so much lighter as he was carrying out so many emotions and didn't know where to put them and didn't know how to talk about them or express himself. Now, this was a one-off session, which I don't usually do or recommend because, the first session is really about offloading something that's, maybe offloading the surface level of what's going on. And we haven't had a chance to kind of dig deep, start removing or peeling back some of those layers. I call it unpacking. Like, you come with a really heavy bag and we start unpacking it, right? So one session, you've literally just opened the bag and taken the top layer out. Like, you haven't even got to the deep levels, to the subconscious mind. So, it's not something that I really recommend or advocate for, but she was very desperate. And so I agreed and I spoke to him. And I did feel that after that one session, he did start to see a bit of perspective. He did want to be more active in the whole process. and was willing to speak to his wife about what that could look like, because it's different for every couple. You know, everyone wants different things. Every woman wants different things from their partner. So it's a very unique and personal experience. Myself and my husband, we also went through a really hard time. Like, so we did couples coaching with a fertility coach when we were going through our journey. And honestly, it was something that we felt really helped pull us out of a dark place when we felt so stuck and like nothing was going our way, because we were like, life was just throwing one shitstorm after another. So we had COVID, job losses, like my husband lost his job. We were under pressure to find another one because as expats in Singapore, we only had 6 months that we could stay here before we have to leave. Our embryos were all here, borders were shut, there was no way of getting our embryos out of the country. My dad was sick, own health was suffering. Like it was like the biggest shitstorm during our journey. Honestly, I honestly don't know how we got out of it, but honestly, this coach really helped us. This is where it's so crucial to like approach the whole situation with understanding and empathy, not just for yourself but your partner. It's not just about you. I'm sorry to say, like, there's both of you, there's two of you in this. It's about understanding each other's emotions and creating space to talk openly, honestly, about what you're both going through without brushing it off or saying that you just think the other person, saying what you think the other person wants to hear, or what I call providing lip service, because that doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help you, doesn't help your husband. How can you work on this to bring more understanding into your relationship during this incredibly tough time? So what I would say is open the conversation, right? So instead of assuming that he knows how you're feeling or what you're feeling, I always say to my husband, like, if you don't tell me what's going on, I'm not going to know through the power of osmosis. Like, I'm not a mind reader. So instead of making assumptions, talk to each other, say, this is what's going on. Start by sharing thoughts and feelings with your husband in a way that, invites him into the process so he feels like he's part of it. And then use I feel statements to express vulnerability and encourage empathy. So, for example, you could say, look, I feel really shit and really overwhelmed right now, and I need your support to get through this. And be very specific about the type of help and support that you need, because again, don't make any assumptions and don't assume that they know what type of help and support you need. Like, be very prescriptive. Like, we never, at work, we don't just go to our bosses and say, I need help, because they're not going to know what kind of help you need. So you always have to be very clear about what it is you want, what type of support you need, what type of help you need. And, invite him into the process. Like, so when you're going to appointments, like, let him know what's coming up, have a joint calendar, let him know, it is sometimes hard for both of you to go to everything, but let him know which ones are coming up that you really want him to go with you on. So when I was going through my own treatments, I let my husband know which ones are the most important ones for him to be there physically. Like, obviously the retrievals, final scans, transfers, those are a must, right? But for others, I would video call him. So he would be at work and I'd video call him, because it would just be like a very quick scan or something. And also, like, where my clinic was, just the nature of my doctor, he's just so, like, you'd often have to wait for hours and hours and hours. And so it wouldn't be fair for both of us just to spend hours and hours just waiting. So I would just call him. I'd video call him when it was my turn, because I wanted him to be involved. And, I didn't want to be the one that carried it all, the one that's taking it all in, because it's hard when you're thinking about so many things and the doctor's saying all these different things and you're like, oh my God, I've got no idea what you just said. So it's good to have both of you there, even if you're not there physically, so that you can both make those decisions. So let him see the medical side of things. Let him feel that emotional weight that you're carrying, and understand, like, what you go through month after month, year after year, on top of everything else that you're doing. So the women I work with are super successful. Like, some of them are doctors or really busy in their careers, and they're working at places like Google, Boeing, or have their own businesses. They're busy women trying to do it all, trying to carry it all. And it's a lot. Give him space to feel. So men do bottle things up, right? And it's important to ask, like, how are you feeling? And asking open-ending questions like, how are you feeling about all of this? what's been the hardest thing for you during this fertility journey or during the IVF treatment? And what do you need from me? Like, what support do you need from me? And share at the same time, share the pressure that you're feeling. Let him know that the emotional burden isn't just about the physical treatment, the medical side of things. It's about the emotions, the mental health, mental well-being, the constant hope and disappointment, the waiting, the fear of failure, the good news that's then followed by bad news and then followed by a bit more good news. And it just goes on like that for what feels like forever. Like you feel like you're just constantly on this hamster wheel. And be honest about the pressure and how it's affecting your mental and emotional health, just so he can see how much you are carrying. You know, they always talk about the mental load that you're carrying, the invisible mental load. So the reason why it's invisible is because we don't talk about it enough, and we're not honest about it enough. And not in a bad way, but I would say, like, don't try and be the hero. Be honest with yourself and your husband. Like, we all need help. We all need help sometimes in our life, and it's absolutely fine to ask of your husband for help. So another helpful tool, and something that I talk to a lot of my clients about, some of them are quite open to it, and some of them are like, I tried, but it doesn't work for me. And we still try it because maybe they were trying it in a way that wasn't working for them because they just didn't know what to do. And that's journaling, right? Or writing it down. And it's such a good way to release emotions and get clearer on your feelings and to not give that feeling power over you, right? Which is really important. So here are some journal prompts that really might help you better understand like how to open up that conversation with your partner that you're dreading or that you're feeling a bit awkward about. So you can ask yourself, how can I talk to my husband about my emotions very honestly without feeling like I'm offloading or burdening him? What does help and support from him look like to me? And how can I clearly tell him what I need? What am I feeling that I haven't yet shared with him that I really want to and I've been holding back? So that's just a few, but there's so many out there. You know, journaling allows you to process your emotions privately, right? So you can understand and be aware, and then you can talk about them with your husband. So as we close out today's episode, like I really want to remind you that the infertility journey is a journey that you are both on, but you don't have to try and do it alone, all alone. Yes, your husband may not fully understand the emotional weight that you've been carrying around, but they can learn to. So speaking and talking to them about the right things that's been on your mind and having empathy is one of the key ways that you can start shifting that and changing that. It's not about fixing things straight away, right? That's not going to happen. It's about connecting, understanding, and supporting each other through the highs and the lows, the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. The journey is difficult for both of you, but you don't have to be the one to carry all the emotional load on your own shoulders. So there's been a lot that I've talked about on this episode, so I'll try and summarize the key takeaways for you. Infertility, most of the time, I would say all of the time, confidently, does create emotional disconnect. But talking it out with your husband is so important so that you both feel like you're part of the same team. Finding that patience and that empathy for each other is so important so you can get through this together. NLP tools such as perceptual positioning, which is the first tool that we talked about, like trying to see things from his perspective or his eyes, along with journaling, are really powerful to help the both of you really understand each other's perspectives. Now, I want to talk a bit about the NLP tool that I talked about. So NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. And that's the type of coaching that I do. And it's about tapping into the subconscious and rewiring the way you think and the thoughts and the narrative and all the stories that you tell yourself. You can only be guided by someone who's got the expertise to do that. So it's important that if you do want to find out more about this, that you talk to someone that has got NLP qualifications and certifications. If today's episode struck a chord with you, I'd love for you to share it with someone who might need to hear it. Or just reach out to me and let me know what you think and any feedback you have. I'd love to hear from you. And if you need support having those tough conversations, I'm here. I'm here to help, guide, and coach you. Take care of yourself, be kind, be gentle, and always remember that you are incredible. If you found today's conversation helpful, I'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your support helps others to find the safe space, and I'm so grateful for that. And if you're ready to take the next step in your fertility journey, get in touch with me. I'm here to help, guide, and support you through this process. So whether you need help shifting your mindset or just someone to listen, I'm with you every step of the way. I want you to remember that your fertility journey is uniquely yours, and that is enough. Take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, be gentle, and trust that you are incredible. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for, and every step you take is a step forward towards your healing and towards your growth. Sending you love, strength, and all the support you need. Until next time.